Hey, Digital Photo 3. I'm going to go through a few different collaging, quote unquote, collaging techniques, and thinking about collaging in a different way, thinking about it in a digital way. So, using mixed media digitally, if that's your option, I'll give you some ways to do that. So, I'm going to show you the pen tool. I'll show you drawing and painting on photos, and then just talk to you about collaging and some options that you have. All right, so you can make a selection and full selection with an image and create a collage that way. I'm going to show you a pen tool, which is just going to allow you to define an area that's different than you could actually define with the selection tool. So one way you could use this is to go around something you already have, and oftentimes it makes just a cleaner line. How the pen tool works is when you click down once, it's going to create a point. And then if I go to my next spot and I click down, it's going to create another point, and all of these lines are going to be straight. Okay, I'm just going to Control Z to undo that. If you click down once and then the next one you click and drag, you can see it creates a handle. You're going to create a curved line. Because I have a handle here, when I go to my next point, it's also going to create a handle or a curved line. And because there's no handle, so no line coming out on this one, my next one's going to be straight. Okay, so if you want to have something curved, you got to click and drag for that to happen. So in this case, I could come out and I'm clicking and dragging here to create these curved lines, and I could follow along. So here you can see that it's not following actually the way I want it to go. And so if that's the case, like when I created this curve, I don't want it to curve the way the handle's going here. So I'm just going to click off of, I'm going to click on here, and that should have removed it. I'm actually going to do, I'm going to do Option click if I'm on a Mac, and then that takes away that handle, boom. And then I can Option click, and I can just go around and I can select Option click because I want to get rid of that handle, and I can just follow along here, and I could outline Ozzy all the way and then create a selection from there. So that's one way you could use it. I'm not going to do the whole thing here. You could just also create your own shape. So in this case, I'm going to create this lightning bolt shape. So I'm just using zigzag lines. So all I'm doing is clicking down over and over. So I'm just clicking down, and it's creating these straight lines. Now, if you put something in the wrong place, we'll talk about that in a second. Like, boom, I didn't put that in the right place, right? I messed that up. So what you can do is you can come over and you can delete your anchor point. So I could click here and I could delete that. And then you can also add anchor points with the plus and add things in as well. And then you can drag stuff, move stuff around. So it's not a perfect lightning bolt at this point, but I'm just going to go with it. So I'm just using that plus to kind of move things around a little bit. Okay, so once you have your path that you've created with a pen tool, on the right side, you're going to come over to paths. And here you can see work path. You can see what I've created. And then on the bottom, you've got some options. I'm going to change this into a selection. So you can see load path selection. When I do that, cool, I've got a selection. So now that means I can come to whatever I have for my images over here, and I can create a mask with that. So I have this like pixely design that I want to go in the lightning bolt here. Right now it's not aligned, my selection is not aligned with my image, but it doesn't always, I can't really move my selection around because it's going to move everything. So I'm just going to click on my layer. I'm going to add a mask. I can see my mask is over here, but they're not aligned. So I'm just going to click on that link, and then I will click on my image, and I'm just going to make sure I'm on the move tool. I'm going to move my image. Oops, I'm on the wrong one. I'm going to take off that auto select so it stays where I want it to. And then I can move it around and boom, cool. I love the way the pixels show up in that. I can also do a control or command T. I'm on a Mac, control T, and I can make this bigger, or I could rotate this if I wanted it to go a different way inside of there. Okay, press enter. So once you align that, just make sure you link those two back together. Okay, so this kind of reminds me of the glitter in the stretch marks. Similar idea. You're creating your own shape, your own path for that to go someplace. All right, so then I could keep making these, and I could make these this kind of cool design in the background. Do consider your background. In this case, I had already selected Ozzy and then masked him out. So the checkerboard just means it's going to be transparent. So I would either want to um, go down here to the bottom and create a solid color, and I could choose, a cool, this kind of a fun color, and I could move it underneath here, or I could do white, or you could add a gradient. So I also had that option. I think I would change these colors, but I could add a gradient back there, or multiple gradients. So you can play with some ideas that way. And then I could duplicate this layer and make it new again. Or maybe I'm going to add some other things in there. I duplicated that layer, so maybe I'll move it over here. Maybe I'll change it up by doing an edit transform, and I could flip it, okay, and then do a control T, maybe make it a little bit smaller. And I could even move this one behind him. Okay, so think about your layering and how you want that to look. So I would keep playing with those. Now, something else you could do is I'm going to show you working with the paintbrush. So the paintbrush you could do in addition to or on its own. So I've made this kind of swipe going across his face to kind of highlight the eyes. I'm repeating colors here. So with the brush tool over on the left side here, we've got the brush tool right here. You've got all kinds of options here. When I use the brush tool, I prefer to create a blank layer. So I'm going to go to the plus here, add a blank layer, and then you can look through all of your brush options. So if you do the down arrow here, you're going to see some folders with different brushes in here. So general brushes are just generally like the round. When you go to some of these other ones, you're going to see just a different kind of shape to some of them. So just watch for a couple of things. Sometimes if you see Blender, it's more of a smudge tool and it doesn't actually paint. So just if you're noticing something's not working, just look for that. And then there's some splatters, which are kind of cool. So I'll use that for now, and then I'll show you the other one that I used. So right now my brush is tiny, okay, but it's creating a pretty good splatter overall. But I can definitely come and make that bigger, or I can use the bracket key to make that bigger. And then let's say I splatter that across here. Then I could choose a blending mode and think about how that's actually going to be incorporated in my photo a little bit differently. So play with some of your blending modes. Ooh, that's kind of fun with the different color saturations. So you could do something like that. You could also play with the opacity once you do that. The one that I used with that big one was, I believe it was this, the Kyle's Real Oil Round Flex. And I just made this big, and just know that this is going to be a little bit slow if you make it big. And I just created a swipe across. Oh, my scratch discs are full, so it's not going to let me do it because I'm taking up too much space here. But when I swiped then I ended up with this in my normal mode, and then I chose a blending mode in order to kind of make it a little more transparent. And you can also bring down the opacity if you want as well. Okay, and then if I added another color for a gradient behind it, it just kind of brings in a whole new level. So you can kind of play with some of those pieces. But I would, in this case, definitely start to fill this in a little bit more. Another option that you could take is just bringing in, this is kind of like the watercolor effect that we did in level 2. So if I bring in, that's the pixels I used. You could create your own if you have paint at home and take a photograph of it, or I'll show you where I found mine. You can kind of think about this as a collage. So I probably wouldn't want all of these on here. I'm going to take some of this stuff off. But you could take the paint splatter, and in this case, I used a blending mode on it, and I made it big. So I changed the size and made it pretty big. But this is what it would look like normal. You could choose a blending mode where it blends into like part of your subject and then the background. I could, if you, like in this case, because I have the background white and I choose lighten, it's, my subject is only going to go in where that splatter paint is. So you could do this with a lot of different kind of shapes and sizes. This one's pretty wild. So that could be an option if you want to overlay images together. All right, then I'm going to link a couple of tutorials. You could do a collage. So this is a tutorial creating a digital collage. Here's another one with a collage. And then for finding images, I recommend that you use Pexels.com. That's a great way to find images. Oh, one last thing. I'm going to take this off. You can paint just with a thin little paintbrush. So I'm going to go back to the brush tool. You could choose just a regular brush. I know some of you are interested in doing that. I could do just the hard round, make my brush pretty small. And then you could, and I might even make it smaller than this. You could find parts to just paint over. My scratches are full, so it's not letting me do that, but you could paint over different parts as well. All right, happy editing. Please jump on a Google Meet or send me an email if you have other ideas and you're like, I don't know how to do this, because I'm happy to send a tutorial or do a screencast and show you. Have a great day, everybody.